I think this should be the slogan, really, for evidence-based practices. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach in the way they learn. Really, that's really what evidence-based practices focus on, the individualization of the child to the practice that will bring out their potential. So when you leave here today, the most important thing I want you to leave with is knowing the important link between evidence-based practices and an inclusive environment. So keep all that in mind as we go through the next few slides. So we're going to get to know Ethan real quick. We're going to go from infancy to adulthood, 60 minutes or less. And so when you look at the red flags of autism, I want you to keep these in mind as you watch the next video clip of Ethan in infancy. And I got to warn you, they're a little bit blurry, and because this is back in the early 90s when you had the camcorder with the VHS tape on your shoulder. So let's go ahead and watch this first video of little baby Ethan. He's about 4.5 months old here.
Ethan, look over here.
I'm busy, Mommy. I'm thinking here. I'm getting all this stuff. Whoa.
Well, bye-bye. See you later. You gonna go spin around again?
I keep behind you all the time.
I saw the mean man.
Kitty.
Good boy. He can only spin to the right.
Why?
Can I slide on your back?
Right there. Come on. Lift up that big old fat head. You're just not going to do it, are you? You're supposed to be lifting up your head. There. Now turn around. And say hello.
Ethan,
Hey, look up.
hey, says what are these things hooked on the ends of my legs?
Look up there.
He was playing with his little ears today. He thought they were funny. Hey! Hi there! His little legs stick straight up.
That's how he used to, in his stroller, his legs were always like straight out, pointing straight out. So as you can see, he met pretty much all the red flags of autism at a very early age in infancy. And when I spoke with the pediatrician and told him my concerns, I got the, don't worry, he'll catch up. So, you know, as a new mom, infant, I'm like, okay, well, you know, maybe he will catch up. We'll just keep watching. So I kept watching. And here we are moving on to about a year and a half, more red flags. So just keep those in mind in your brain there as we go on to the next video clip. A little bit older. This first video clip is quite blurry, but note the tongue protrusion, the tongue clicking, and also the poor motor control.
Okay, you too. Bye.
All done with that one.
Get a new book. You like that one? Oh, that's a fun one.
Not so good. How do you remember the number?
Baby Mickey takes a nap.
Square. Circle. Circle.
Ethan.
Triangle.
Show him to get his foot up there first. Oh, there.
He'll get the hang of it. Giddy up, horse! Giddy up, horse! That's a good trick, Ethan. Jumping off the back. Did you get a horse? Yay! Yay! Whoa! Giddy up, horse!
Okay, so could you still see the red flags at this age? Went to the second pediatrician now, told him my concerns, still no language. Don't worry, he'll catch up, don't worry. Okay, so now we're moving on, actually to about, I think the next clip is he's 2 and above. So keep an eye, keep those in your mind as you're looking at the next video clip as well.
Oh, she's dancing big now.
Hello. Jump. Ethan. Ethan.
I want you to jump, Cody.
Aww. You're giving the bow wow a lovey. Aww, dear.
I think I need some time out.
Ethan, look at mommy. Look at mommy, Ethan. Look at mommy. You made a big mess over there with all your stories, huh?
What do you want? What do you want? Little boy. You want up here? Are you all done feeding Charlie?
Yeah, push another button. Wow. Which one of these?
Ethan, are you playing the computer with Daddy?
He's playing the computer.
Ethan.
He's playing the computer with Dad. Push this one. Oh, you like the I? That's the letter I.
Ethan.
Push this one. Push this one.
Push the S for snake.
Push this one. Oh, you like the I?
Oh, what are you hollering about?
Okay.
Come on, Bert. Ready.
One. 1, 2.
You know what he wanted to do?
Basketball for me has always been a celebration.
2.
A celebration of life. A celebration
Tell Grammy.
celebration of
What comes after 2?
running up and down the court.
Huh? Cookie. Are you a happy boy? Ethan? Ethan? Are you happy boy? Hey, mister. Happy? Look how I did all his little animals. Made a circle of them.
I know.
He has them all lined up under the tree, too. There's other ones. He's so sweet.
Visible from the moon. Once a great
Okay, so now I wasn't going to listen to he'll catch up anymore. So now we're going to the third pediatrician. And I go in there and I have all my concerns all typed up on a piece of paper from infancy on, like, okay, I'm going to get listened to this time. And so I go in to the pediatrician, and he goes in, the doctor comes in to do the examination. Maybe after 2 or 3 minutes, he looks at me and he goes, I'm going to refer you to Far Northern Regional Center. I suspect that he may have autism, so we're going to send you there for a referral. Yay! I got listened to. So it took a while, and at this point he's 2.5 and heading towards 3, and he's had these early red flags from about 4 months, really. So I'm going to pass the baton to Kandis now.
And at 3 is when I met Ethan. He was standing in the middle of the inclusive preschool classroom screaming, because that's how he communicated. He did not have spoken language. However, we knew, based on all of his engagement with books and doing puzzles that were way more sophisticated than his years, that Ethan had average intelligence. He just didn't have that communication piece. And of course, at that time, it was 1999 when I met Ethan at age 3. He was born in 96. We didn't have the evidence-based practices as scientifically researched as they are now, as Ann England shared with us in the last session. But we did have best practices here in the state of California. And I was a program specialist working for the County Office of Education, and Autism had chosen me, and those were the children that I was seeing right along. And we in Shasta County were trying to use all of those best practices in every setting, and of course a big focus on the inclusive kinds of education. Just looking at the prevalence back, you can see in 1999, 1 in 1,000, it wasn't what we have today, but even so, we were trying to take a look at this baffling, confusing disorder and recognize that we really needed to use different kinds of strategies that would systematically address those underlying deficits of an autism spectrum disorder. So Gina's going to continue with his journey as she worked very closely with the schools, and then we'll talk more about the evidence-based practices as we go along.
So once we made it to Far Northern Regional Center, the diagnostic process took about 4 months in total, through the assessments, evaluations, the questionnaires, and everything that were needed in order to start the interventions, which started, as Kandis just spoke about, around his 3rd birthday or thereafter. So getting started and choosing the best evidence-based practices and setting up a home program, after everything was all set with the regional center, they sent out a behaviorist to the house. She observed me and Ethan, and I completed another questionnaire. It was like 5,000 pages, but I did every single page and I filled it out in detail. And then she took all the information and back and developed a report and a plan of action. And so from there, I received about a month of, I'd say, training, orientation to how to implement the practices that she had in mind in the home setting. So once I started doing that, getting everything all set up, and we'll talk more about the systems that were at home a little later, She came out once a week for about an hour and provided support to me and to Ethan and suggestions and strategies. So the identified interventions that were decided that she came to the conclusion that we'd start with was the antecedent-based intervention ABI package and the picture exchange communication system, and Kandis is going to talk more about that.
Well, it wasn't called antecedent-based interventions back then. That's our new term. But it is really everything that we put in place so that the student will be successful. It's used certainly to reduce stereotypic and repetitive behaviors, of which Ethan had many. He was not really self-injurious, but he had a lot of sensory needs. And we just want, with our antecedent-based interventions, to prevent or set up the environment or the activity for success. And with that, in the current evidence-based practices, which I strongly encourage you to follow up with the National Professional Development Center and take a look at these, there were some clear things that we consistently did across all environments. And number one, of course, is taking a look at the environment and arranging that so that it would be successful. Again, acknowledging that students on the autism spectrum are very visual learners, making the physical environment very clear. Structure, schedules, and routines, being consistent, and this isn't rigid, it's just being consistent. And it required those of us working with him in the schools as well as at home to sustain the same level of consistency. And then, of course, pre-activity warnings and things like that are common teaching strategies. But again, the consistency of everyone working with Ethan helped Ethan learn to understand the expectations of a learning situation and basically learn how to learn, structuring his time so it would be predictable for him. And in doing all of this, antecedent-based or before the expected or desired behavior from Ethan. Just some of the things that we have used, of course, visual timers, a simple entry-level schedule first, then labeling where things go, what goes in certain containers. These are all antecedent-based interventions that we use both at home and at school, and that key collaboration is just so critical for consistency. The picture exchange communication system, which is also an evidence-based practice. And as I said, Ethan was screaming in the middle of the preschool because he didn't have a functional way to communicate his wants and needs. And so with the picture exchange communication system, it becomes very clear and concrete. And Gina will talk a little bit more about that and how it was used in the home. And of course, again, the homeschool collaboration was very, very tight. And this was, I think, a main reason why Ethan has had so much success. With the PECs, Gina used it at home. Do you want to speak to this a little bit, Gina?
So once we got the system set up at home, we had to make sure that all systems were portable. They needed to go in the home to the community. So, I mean, you still have to go to the bathroom. You're still hungry and thirsty when you're out in the community as well. So every system that I had was portable, so to say, and very easy. Back in the day, I had the Polaroid camera, take the picture. With Ethan, he did not relate to the picture icons that are like a cartoon, I guess what they call clip art, that you can use. Some PEC systems are built from that. I had to actually use photographs. And so I had my Polaroid camera that I took with me everywhere. And so, and Velcro. Easy, breezy, you take a picture and you have it done. And I always labeled it with the word as well, so he would associate the picture with the word. So that is the main thing that I wanted to emphasize about PEC systems, is that if you're just using them in one setting in the classroom and you're not carrying them out into the playground, they're not going to the cafeteria or snack time or wherever you're at, then you're taking that mode of communication away from the child instead of taking it with the child, and you will see behaviors. So as Ethan's spontaneous speech started to develop, 1 to 2 word sentences, we actually started to fade out PECs. He also used some simple sign gestures as well in association with words such as drink and eat and bathroom and that type of stuff. So we're going to just show you another quick video clip. This is Ethan at 4, and you'll be able to see his spontaneous speech starting to develop in not so much echolalic speech, which he also had during this time.
Hi, Evie.
Uncle Sam. You Uncle Sam. Behind the waterfall.
Okay.
You can do it. Okay. You want to jump off the waterfall? Jump off the waterfall. Jump off the waterfall.
Wow-wee.
Wow. Kick your feet. Kick your feet.
Do you see yourself on the TV? Where are you?
I'm 4 years old.
Yeah, you're 4 years old.
4.
4. Can you say you're a mommy's boy? Whose boy are you? Are you a mommy's boy?
I'm from.
You were playing farm, weren't you? Mommy saw you playing farm. Oh, you're pushing Mommy over. Yeah.
Papa.
Get back a little way.
And his head.
And the what?
Come back here a little way. Come back here a little way.
You like watching yourself on the TV? Oh. And what else? Oh, look at all you... Yeah, you see all your handsome faces? What happened to your head?
My head.
Oh, did you get an owie head?
I go.
Owie toe? There you are.
I go.
It's getting ready to go. You're riding an elephant, huh? And a zebra's next to you. Okay. Ethan! Ethan, look at Mommy. What are you doing? Are you riding an elephant? Unicorn? Let me see. Oh, yep, there is a unicorn up there, huh?
Goat. Push on the goat.
Oh, are you okay? Pigeon bite. Pigeon. Turkey, do you see the turkey? Pigeon, don't touch a pigeon. Don't touch a pigeon. Pigeon, don't touch a pigeon. Don't. It tried to bite him, Grammy.
When choosing the evidence-based practice and moving from a home-based environment into a school-based environment, just to make sure that are the interventions going to work in all these different areas, at home, in the community, in school, and out in recreational activities. They all need to tie in together, and communication needs to follow. So it was actually, I had state-run inclusive preschool. I think it was a county-run inclusive preschool with a STC preschool teacher at the time. But the first environment that he was directed to for preschool was actually an SDC preschool setting. And when I went to observe the preschool setting, it just didn't look like a good fit for Ethan. There was no typical peers in that classroom, and I just really thought that with his spontaneous speech starting to develop that he really needed to be around peers of his own age that were verbal and had language. So they offered this other preschool setting, and I'm like, yes, that's it. It's like a dream come true. There was about 5 children in there with a diverse ability and about 10 typical children, and a couple aides that were in there. And then, like I said, the preschool teacher had a special ed credential as well. So the behaviorist met with her, talked to her about what we were doing at home, and so it was a wraparound service. Everything that we were doing at home came to the school, came back home, and it was a very inclusive environment. And there was the hand-over-hand facilitation that occurred. What was really important and key was that the services came to Ethan. He didn't have to go to the services. Speech therapy and occupational therapy were there on site and integrated within his day as well. And you can see in that third picture down there at the bottom, he has his systems were there set up in the classroom, and the entire class benefited from his visuals that were up. And that's him. Of course, he gravitates towards the girls, even from preschool on. He's a ladies' man. So when it was decided that he was going to enter grade school, the IEP team agreed that an inclusive general education classroom was the best placement for him. He showed so much success and progress in preschool that it would be a natural progression into kindergarten. And so he started his kindergarten class. I was all excited about the progress he was going to make and the years to come. And about a month or two, I started noting some regression. His language stopped. The screaming came back. Some behaviors that went away for a year came back. And I'm like, what is going on? This shouldn't be happening. So I went out to the school and noticed that he was actually not in a general education classroom. He was placed in an SDC classroom, which was against his IEP, and I didn't know this. So I called for an IEP, and another one, and several IEPs later, it was decided that he would actually go to another school in a different district, and that the school of residence, the district of residence, would pay for his services in the new district of attendance. And so we kind of bypassed kindergarten altogether. He went right into the first grade of the next school year in the new school in a general education first grade classroom with supports and services in place, and of course just blossomed from there. So just to look at my perspective as a parent of what inclusion means to Ethan and to me and to our family, it's really a sense of belonging in a community and a group of friends where everybody is learning together and everybody is learning the same way. And so there are several different definitions of inclusion, I guess you can say, different perspectives of what it looks like. It's not necessarily a placement, it really is the programming around the child. So there's obvious benefits, and I don't have to read through them. I think everybody in this room would know the benefits of an inclusive environment. It really just enhanced the acquisition, the skill acquisition for him, because he had the typical peers there that he could model from. And in future slides, I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about self-disclosure. But early on in Ethan's years, it was decided as a family that we would, for every teacher, for every class, and for every student, we would do some support and autism awareness. And so I was lucky to have Kandis, who was his program specialist at the time, that would come in and do just a quick introduction of what is autism and how can you support your friend. And you'll see later on as Ethan grew through the years, by his senior year, he was actually doing that, educating his own classes, which is very exciting. So the obvious benefits to the peers as well is just increased understanding of diversity. And the kids that were in Ethan's classes grew with him through the years. Many of them have gone on to college to become speech language pathologists, occupational therapists, a few special ed teachers in there in the mix as well. And they come back every summer from their colleges and work for the program that I developed, which is an intervention program for children with autism using evidence-based practices. So they learn hand-on-hand with about, I have about 92 students every summer. So it just, through learning and growing with Ethan, it kind of developed their career path. Score for everybody. So things to remember when looking at an inclusive setting is really there's no cookie cutter way. The interventions are not autism specific. They're really everybody specific. The entire class benefits from what you put in place for the student with autism. From the visuals to the, and I'll talk more about Ethan's senior year as we get further on, but just the presentations that he would give to the class as a whole. I'll just tell you a quick story. Quick one, okay. So Ethan's senior year, the class assignment in his U.S. government class was to write about something significant that happened in history from 1990 to present. So most of the kids were doing their reports, and it was supposed to be a written report on the different wars and so forth. But Ethan has difficulty writing, extracting the facts and writing them down in a summary. So his presentation was actually a PowerPoint. And he did his project on the rapid rise of autism in the early 1990s. So that was a way that, again, that he was able to develop something and share it with the class. And the teacher thought, okay, wait, I'm getting all these papers and I'm grading them all. The kids aren't learning from each other, what they have gathered together, but everybody learned from Ethan in his PowerPoint presentation. So the final project for everybody in the class was to do a PowerPoint presentation as a group on various different things. So 3 students were assigned to do a project, and so every student learned from each other, and it was quite wonderful. Okay, so moving right along. So just keep in mind that the student with autism has all these things wrapped around in their little life. You know, all the therapies, the doctors, the specialists, the school courses, extracurricular activities. So just to know that the practice that you are using with the child isn't another thing to add to. It's something that is infused within their life. And I'm going to pass the baton to Kandis.
And so moving the EBPs from home to school, this is a list of the EBPs as they're written now. This isn't really exactly the way we had them written out back then. But visual supports, self-management, peer-mediated instruction and intervention, social narratives, structured play groups, and video modeling. And these were the key. We used many things within that, and what I'm going to do in this next little section is just give you some visual ideas of the kinds of things that worked for Ethan and what we used around these evidence-based practices. Visual supports. We know that visual learning is sort of the main learning modality for kids on the autism spectrum. So basically, we had all teachers make things as visual as possible. And that doesn't really take a lot of effort, it just takes a little creativity. And Ethan, too, could make things very visual. But we used a variety of things. Written schedules, of course, visual rules, visual instructions, any way to make this auditory world of teaching, because as Temple Grandin says, we are neurotypical yak-yaks, and teachers are the worst, I think, and I fall right into that category because we have a lot to say, and we think that's the most effective way to communicate. And really, pairing it with a visual is the most effective way to communicate. So diagrams, organizers, checklists, timers, audio alerts, all of these were used. There's, as Gina said, not one cookie cutter, not one right answer. It's the answer that works for that individual child. And if you've met one individual with an autism spectrum disorder, you've met one. And that's each individual is very unique in what they need, and that's what we have to do, and it requires our creativity. So these are just some of the visual supports for Ethan. He had a morning routine at home, and he had an afternoon routine at home. And of course, at school, we had his schedule. We had many routines for different kinds of activities. Bottom line, it was consistent in both environments. Ethan learned to listen with his eyes, and I think that's very critical. It's really a way for us to speak clearly to individuals on the autism spectrum. Here's some visual supports about good listening. What are your eyes doing? What are your ears doing? What are your lips, hands, and feet doing? Made in a very simple visual. Now, in the beginning, as Gina said, Ethan really could relate best to photographs, but as he grew and learned, line drawings were fine. And so it didn't even have to be a picture of Ethan. As you see Ethan's morning routine up here, that is not Ethan. That's his cousin Cody. So it could be anybody demonstrating what the routine was all about. And that helped clarify it for Ethan. Here's one of his, this is sort of a takeoff on Carol Gray's comic strip conversations, which I kind of like to think of as a visual social narrative, but making a comic strip approach with the sequence of what should happen. And Ethan illustrated that, am I correct? Yes, Ethan, yes, he likes to illustrate his own things, and so this was one of Ethan's way of communicating and also helping him understand it. And we know when a youngster owns this strategy, when they start to spontaneously be able to use it. So any of these visual supports, if they set up and do their own comic strip conversation to explain something or communicate something that's personal to them. Patty, in her book on executive functioning, helps the kids and the people working with them to use cluster organizers, Venn diagrams, keeping it simple, making it visual, not only for personal things, but also for academic activities. And one of the accommodations for Ethan in his classes in high school was when he had a history test, say, and there was a narrative response required to a question. Ethan's accommodation was to be able to put it in a cluster organizer. So he would write his essay by simply, what is the theme? And he would put it in the center, and then all the components around in the cluster. And then you see a couple of examples of things that he has done with that. Ethan has used a variety of visual schedules, and I don't think of a visual schedule as something that we do for kids with autism. I call it a life skill. Is there anybody in this room that does not keep some sort of schedule? We all do, and some of us may have it just on a little calendar, a pocket calendar. Some of us may have it on our computer or on your phone. We all keep a schedule. It reduces anxiety, it builds predictability, it gets us where we need to go, and that's what Ethan has had since he was in preschool. And so his schedules certainly started out very basic, using photographs, and moving into written schedules. Ethan went for a period of time where he used a BlackBerry. I believe that was his first, and he would check that. Patty and I came to visit one time, and we stopped by Gina's office, and Ethan happened to be there, and we said, "Hi, Ethan, gee, we're glad to see you," and he said, "I'd like to talk to you." And he gets it out and he checks his schedule and he says, "But I only have 15 minutes because I've got to go." So he scheduled us in for 15 minutes so we could have just a little chit chat before he had to go to his next event. And that's when you celebrate and you go, this individual owns the skill. They can do this, and it's going to make a difference, not just today, but for a lifetime. And that's what these evidence-based practices do. Just some more examples. And Ethan, in high school, went back to paper because he felt more comfortable with it. And then he learned to use whiteout. Because, sometimes things change. And I have a wonderful little video clip of Ethan describing how he uses his whiteout and why, but we're not going to show that today. We only have just so many minutes to get all of this information in. But scheduling is a very important thing. Now, Gina is just the best, the rock star of moms that comes up with all these great ideas. And I'm going to ask her to start this little video because this is her computer and I'm not sure. I don't want to make it go away. But this was Ethan learning to do a household task with a schedule on an iPod.
Yeah. So, learning to do laundry is an essential skill when you're a high schooler, right? Yeah, okay, time for you to do your own laundry. So, I found the best way for Ethan was to just, I guess it could be a form of video modeling in a sense. It was on his iPod, and it would go through the different steps with my voice telling him what to do. And with some of these schedules and visuals, he really just needed to watch it once or twice, and then he knew the sequence of events. But just me telling him, now put the soap in, now do this, he wouldn't remember that. But if he saw it, then he remembers. So this is Ethan doing his laundry.
Open the washer door, put the dirty clothes in the washer.
I don't know why it's kind of jerky, but.
Open the washer door, put the dirty clothes in the washer. Measure soap up to the 1 line.
So the iPod told him to fill the soap up to the, I marked with a Sharpie on the inside of the cup so he could see where to fill the soap up to. Now we just use those little pod things. You just toss them in, you don't even have to measure. Nice. Did you push your next step button? Push your next step button.
Videotaping this for Miss Kandis?
Yeah.
Videotaping it.
Every time I videotaped him, he thought I was doing it for Kandis.
Pour soap into soap door dispenser.
Right there.
Okay, now your next step. Push your next step on your iPod.
Close soap door and turn on the power.
Now see, I took pictures of the actual washing machine buttons and stuff as well. Okay, and push start. Yeah.
You're here to watch it beep. The doors keep the doors clean.
So what happens next?
When you hear the washer beep, the clothes are clean.
Okay, so you have to wait for the washer to beep and the clothes will be clean.
Put it in the dryer.
Yeah, that's a very good job. And then he had dryer steps also. Go ahead and turn off your iPod until we're ready for the dryer steps. Very nice.
So you see, we used all kinds of tools, and certainly Gina, with her creativity and technology, brought a lot to Ethan's learning. Self-management, something that we all need to help our students learn, is an evidence-based practice. And again, making it visual, using circle, square, triangle, or the thinking tool from Patty's book on executive functioning has been a foundational graphic organizer for Ethan to understand how his behavior relates to the outcome in a situation. Also using the Venn diagram, Ethan came to Gina and was figuring out he has an allergy to monosodium glutamate, and how MSG and headaches, they both make him feel really icky. That's the bottom part down here, and all the things about that. So he spontaneously did that, brought it to Gina, because he was thinking and figuring things out. Strategies for Ethan in terms of self-management, certainly we want to have him be able to have choices, have understanding of time. The activities were sequenced within each day. Peer and staff paused that whole processing time that we heard about this morning from Dr. Pennington. He really needs more processing time, and built natural breaks into his day. We also used other visuals that are maybe common, and you've seen them, but Ethan put his own touch on things in terms of understanding his feelings when he wasn't feeling well or unhappy or upset. He did that on his feelings moodometer. And so again, you know, our students come up with things that they relate to. He also for a while kept a feelings journal. You can see in the top left-hand picture there, where he wrote down things or drew pictures about what was making him feel uncomfortable or other emotions. Across the bottom, though, you'll see some visuals. I don't like what I see, hear, or feel, and so I will, and there's what he can do about it. Once again, helping him have the answer to his question in a visual way. Of course, creating these things with him at a time of calm so he can use them at a time of stress so that he can handle or self-manage his own emotions. Now, I have a little video clip here of Ethan and I doing circle, square, triangle. The circle stands for situation, square is for the action, and triangle is for the outcome, and kind of doing some problem solving. Ethan,
Yeah.
what do we have here?
Circle, square, triangle.
All right, and we call it a what?
CST, thinking game.
A thinking tool.
Thinking tool.
sometimes,
What's
right?
thinking tool?
This is our thinking tool, circle, square, triangle. You've used this a lot, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what is the circle?
Situation.
Situation. Here's the situation.
Yeah. You are flying to Disneyland.
You are flying to Disneyland, right?
Thumbs up.
That is a thumbs up situation, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm going to put that right up here on our board, okay? You are flying to Disneyland. Now,
Use these.
we'll use those, but we're going to save those for right now.
Yeah.
Now, to get ready for
Yeah.
Disneyland
Yeah.
and to fly on the airplane,
Yeah.
what did your mom do?
Yeah.
What did your mom do to help you get ready?
Get up. Did we already think of that?
Did she write you a story?
Yes.
Okay, so have you ever flown on an airplane before?
Yes.
Have you? You love it?
Yeah.
Okay. Have
With his dad in a
okay.
little tiny
in
airplane.
a little plane, but this is a big plane, right?
Big plane of
Okay.
Alaska Airlines.
So to get ready, Mom, what did she do? Wrote
Rope.
a social story,
So
right?
Mom wrote the social story.
Mm-hmm. And what did the social story tell you?
About going to Disneyland.
On a,
Airplane.
okay, so it told you what to expect on the airplane,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh. That's the action.
That's the action.
Yeah.
But what did you do with the social story when she put it together?
Yeah.
Did you read it or did you put it in a drawer?
Read it.
Okay.
I just put I read my story.
Okay. All right. All right. So those are the actions, right?
Yeah.
All righty. So I am going to put those up here because we're going to do something else. Are these thumbs up or thumbs down
Thumbs up.
actions? All right.
Yeah.
And what's the triangle?
Outcome.
Outcome. So when your mom wrote the social story and you read it,
Yeah.
did you feel happy and excited about flying or scared and nervous?
Excited.
All right.
I do lots of squealing. It's a thumbs down outcome.
If you did a lot of squealing, that would be thumbs down, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Why would that be thumbs down?
Yeah, I do lots of squealing in the monorail.
But monorail is one place to scream, but how about on an airplane? Can you scream on an
No.
airplane?
It's a quiet.
It's a quiet place, isn't it?
Yeah. Like a
What would the other people think if you were,
quietly.
yes, you read quietly?
That I read a book. Read a book or a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I felt excited,
Not nervous?
not nervous. Good.
Okay. So when your mom, now we can put the arrows up. When you decided to go to Disneyland, your mom wrote a story for you about flying on the airplane, because you don't usually fly on the airplane, do you?
Yes.
No, not usually. You
No.
drive, don't you?
Drive to the airport and get to Los Angeles.
That's what you're going to do this
Drive
time,
to the
right?
airport and fly the airplane to Los Angeles.
That's what we're going to do this time.
Yes.
Now, I want to think about what if Mom did not write a story.
It's a thumbs down.
And you didn't know about the plane ride.
Yeah. I didn't know. It's a thumbs down outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What if those things happened?
Yeah.
You said that would be a thumbs down outcome or a sad outcome, and what would be sad about that? Would you maybe be scared and nervous on the plane because you didn't know what to expect?
No.
Well, if you didn't have your story,
No. Real sad.
you'd be sad. Okay.
Yeah.
So having Mom write that story
It's a thumbs up.
is a thumbs up. We can put a happy face here. So, oops, I made the wrong one. Look, I'll fix it. There's the happy face, and there's the sad face. And so we really want to, when we're going on a trip, we want to know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
And the story helps us know what to expect.
Yeah.
So, which one of these is the best? The top one is
Top. Yeah.
excellent. Ethan was very engaged with his peers all through school. He participated in the awareness activities, at first by just being in the audience, and later by actually contributing and participating so that others could understand about him and what his needs were. So I strongly encourage you to consider peer-mediated interventions in inclusive settings, in all settings actually, because it really does build a community of support, which is what was so important. And when Ethan did transition to middle school, I went in and did awareness activities with the faculty there, but the people that did the true training of the teachers were his peers. And when a teacher made an error in how they should present things to Ethan, they were corrected by his peers or encouraged to do it differently because his peers understood Ethan and what he needed. So do not overlook that huge natural resource of peers for support. And here are just some wonderful pictures over the years of Ethan, and structured play groups where the expert player has an understanding of the things that Ethan needs to learn and is working with him is another evidence-based practice. A lot of research out there on that. I want to have Gina tell you, and you think, oh, structured play group, you know, they get to high school, that's all done, or they get to middle school, that's all done. No, and this is his high school structured play group or lunch bunch. So I'm going to let Gina just add a few little things along there to help you understand that.
Okay, so by Ethan's senior year, he had a whole lineup of students that wanted to participate in his lunch bunch. So they kind of rotated through. And what it was once a week for an hour, the speech and language pathologist ran a group. And within that group, there was Ethan and it started out with 3 or 4, but it ended up with about 6 or 7 of his peers that just got together, and he learned the social skills around conversation, around in a natural environment and setting. And so throughout the years written on Ethan's IEP for the speech and language therapy was actually the lunch bunch. And sometimes it was also facilitated by the autism consultant that was part of his team as well. And this was, Ethan loves checklists, as we talked about earlier. So he would have his own little checklist. These are the things that he needed to accomplish during that session. And, they did fun activities and different things. The kids got to leave their prior class about 5 minutes early so that they could transition into this activity with him. And still, on campus during lunchtime, and they would sing karaoke together and other things like that. They had a lot of fun. This is just an example of a social group. The teacher there leading the group with Ethan and a few of his peers, and they were working on some workbooks at that time.
Social narratives are stories written in a specific format. One of the most recognized is Carol Gray's work on a social story, but a social narrative is based on a lot of her work. Ethan used a lot of social narratives, once again, made it visual, concrete, took all the frills out. He could understand social situations. His field trip would be described in a social story. He went to the state capitol with a group, what was that? It was like third grade. So, helping him understand what was happening. Polite opening of presents, a social story, but he also likes things broken down, and sometimes social stories might be a little too long, so it's like his list of what to do. My deodorant story. Again, keeping it very simple, making it visual, very clear, and then Ethan can write his own. And, sometimes I feel silly as a loon. I need to calm myself down. These are some of the things I can do to take the sillies away. And so, once again, when an individual can actually create their own, whether it's a graphic organizer, visual support schedule, social narrative, then they own the skill, and it's going to make a difference for them. And once again, video modeling in and of itself is an evidence-based practice. Lots of research supporting this. Scott Bellini's book has a whole chapter on how to go about doing video modeling, and it's a strategy that we've used a lot. At one of his neurology appointments, he needed to have an EEG, and it wasn't something that could be scheduled. It was something that he needed to just go and do. And so trying to explain to Ethan what that would be was difficult, and there wasn't a brochure for me to show him. So I quickly pulled up on my phone a YouTube video of basic, this is what an EEG is, and this is a procedure to go through. So I showed that to him, and he was able to go through the procedure with no problems at all. He knew exactly what to expect and what was expected of him. So that was just a quick example of video modeling. So self-determination, by his senior year, he was out there, telling everybody what he needed to be successful. He was able to recognize what accommodations he may need. He was able to tell people, that when he needed a break, he needs a break, if he needs help with this, and how they could help him. And so bringing it all together in one diagram of what self-determination really looks like. Again, with self-disclosure, it is a family decision, a personal decision, but I think it was very important if he understands how autism affects him and what he needs to ask for to be successful, and what his peers can do for him to help him be successful. Isn't that really the most important thing in order to move forward in life? So talked about self-disclosure. So I want to show you a quick video clip of Ethan. By his senior year, he was able to lead his own IEP. He sent out his own invitations. He said who he wanted to be there, and that's his IEP team right there. I'm going to go to this video clip because he can explain it best himself.
Okay. Hi, I am Ethan Grecian. Welcome, and thank you for coming to my IEP meeting. Today we will review the progress and plan for the next year. Can you please introduce yourselves?
I'm Lauren Bishop, itinerant teacher for children with autism. Melissa Azevedo, district psychologist.
Charlie Kennedy, Director of Special Education.
Heather Forster has one-on-one aid.
Karen Reed, counselor.
Mr. Clyber, SDC teacher.
Mr. Morphew, SDC teacher.
Scott Booth, principal.
Gina Grecian, Ethan's mom.
I would first like to talk about my strengths. I believe my strengths are like memorizing, spelling words, my computer skills. I'm kind and polite, clean and organized. I enjoy drawing, painting, and playing the keyboard. For anyone else like to add to that? Next, I would like my teachers to talk about how I am doing your classes. Who would like to begin?
Well, I think I would, Ethan. I would love to begin. I think you're doing very well in my 6th grade math class, although you're doing independent study with Miss Heather. I think Miss Heather actually has done an exceptional job making sure you stay on task and learn the stuff from the book.
Like life skills?
The life skills math, all the money math and percentages and converting fractions into decimals.
I do that around sophomore year.
I think you're doing a very, very, very good job.
Thank you, teachers, for sharing with the team and for coming to my IEP. We have an item to talk about. So if you may leave if you need to.
I think everybody's going to stay right now.
Okay. Yeah.
To help you after you graduate.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the name of my disability is autism.
Okay.
This means that sometimes it's hard for me to understand things. It's hard for me when the substitute teacher changes the schedule.
Well, what helps you when that happens?
Like Miss Priya.
When your schedule gets changed, then
No deal.
no big deal, huh? You can write down your new schedule for that day. Yeah.
Okay. I am right here. And making people understand me and working in a noisy environment.
Those are all things that are hard, huh?
Yeah, it is
Like
hard to
them
work in.
pressing to quiet down.
Do you ask everybody to quiet down?
No.
Who does that?
It's noble.
The teachers, probably.
Yeah. Interested in becoming an office technician, being a car driver, want to be a famous artist, and a famous photographer.
Wow.
Now, let's look at my goals from last year's IEP. This year, my goals are, I like to in the community, and how to create and sell my artwork.
Can you try that one more time?
I would like to learn how to work in the community, and how to create and sell my artwork.
You have to stop giving it away.
Shoes on. Ethan will continue to develop his vocational employment skills as an office assistant, delivering mail.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
copies.
Running, that was the next one, you read that, yeah, running copies, stocking supplies, and assisting in everyday office-related duties with adult support or supervision.
Like stocking the office supplies,
Yeah,
stocking the papers on the copiers.
yeah. And I had, let's see, who was I talking to? Mrs., the lady that runs.
It's correct.
Mrs.
Here's a copy of your parent rights.
No, to your mom.
Here's a copy of your parent rights.
Oh, thank you. I was wondering where those were.
All the rights on that paper will be mine when I turn 18.
Ooh.
Exactly.
When will that be?
August 11th. We'll be at the barbecue party. Will everyone please sign my IEP? Everyone sign the IEP.
Is this your IEP?
No.
No. Mr.
That's
Kennedy.
plain silly.
Mr.
I
Kennedy has.
I actually have the signature page
Okay.
right here. But you
Thank
know
you
what?
for coming.
Hold it.
Oh.
It's right your turn. Right here.
You're the first one to sign.
Here it comes.
Oh,
Actually, you're not the first one. Mr. Booth signed because he had to leave early.
a blue pen?
How about the blue pen?
Yeah, all I have is
Oh,
one.
you-
Doesn't matter.
There's a blue
Doesn't
pen.
matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
You always have to sign legal documents with a pen, not a pencil.
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
Indeed.
yeah.
Don't use a pencil. Read. My Life, My Way by Ethan Grecian. What would you at Anderson High School? Get out the laser pointer. This is Ethan at high school. From Monica Frere. I work hard in my job. I will take art classes. I will go on vacations. I will stay healthy. I will vote. I will have fun with my best friends. I will help others learn about autism. I will work hard at my job at Meadow Lane. Things I will do are working on the copier, the printers, helping teachers make copies, delivering mail and packages, stocking the office supplies, and putting paper or toner in the copier, delivering messages from the phone to teachers from the principal's office, help in the classrooms when teachers ask. I work hard Monday through Friday at Meadow Lane. This is, we're going to put this on. This is called, I work at Create Positive Environments. It's called CPE. Things I will do, there are working on the copier, making copies for coworkers, delivering the mail and packages for the office, stocking the office supplies and paper and toner in the copier, working on the printing press, learn how to do CAD, computer-aided design, help in homeless families getting them food bags. This is me then taking art classes, holding the carp fish. Everybody likes my artwork. I want to learn different kinds of art. I would like to take art classes like Under the Rainbow and All Fired Up, like Mrs. Bryan teaches. I would like to sell my artwork, so I work hard and do a good job. My artwork makes people happy and smile. I like when I get smiles at me. I will go on vacations with my family. We go to Hawaii, Disneyland Hawaii, Disney World, Disneyland, and Dollywood. I will find a plane or drive for a long time. I like to write mail to my friends on vacation. I will take lots of pictures with my camera. I like to draw pictures of characters when I stay on vacation. I like to swim in pools, swim in oceans, and ride lots of fair rides. I will stay healthy, like going to the Y and swimming, working on elliptical machines and weightlifting. I also take exercise classes, like at Rand Aquatic Center. I work hard on my bicycle and exercise at Clover Creek, like taking walks. I will swim in my pool. I will eat good oatmeal and water, and food and water. I will vote. I'll take this out. This is Ethan voting, so I can vote for him, help things I need, like writing votes. Like keep me the things at Farnham Regional Center, and Social Security is personal, and my doctors. I will have fun with my friends. My friends like to come over and swim with me. I like to have birthday parties on the lake and in my yard. I like to go to Cartown movies with my friends. I'll have fun, like coming over and hang out and watch Disney movies or Christmas. I'll help others learn about autism. I like to go to State Capitol in Sacramento, like Andrew Roberts in the 4th grade. I like to talk to people and the things I am good at, and it can help me. I like to talk at the Mind Institute about autism. Here are the pictures of me helping teach about autism. I'll miss all my friends and teachers at school. I'll write letters I see after graduation. I graduated! I got my diploma! Yep, there's Ethan graduating from walking down the hallway of school. This is my man life. I work hard every day and earn money. I work at Meadow Lane Monday through Friday. I check in the principal's office and start my work. I check the mail and look at my inbox for jobs. When I am done with my work, I learn how to do new things. Some of the things I do in my job are make sure there's paper and ink in the copier. Make sure all the packages and mail are delivered in the staff mailboxes.
I put things in ABC order and make booklets for the teachers. I laminate things for teachers. I do die-cast cutting to make bulletin boards. I do messages on the phone, special artwork for teachers. I make copies for the teachers. I also work at called CPE, Creative Positive Environments, like sharing papers. I keep the office tidy and clean for my coworkers. I am learning how to do the t-shirt iron. I practice my typing skills on the Dell computer. I make jump ropes. I like to make t-shirts with a screen printing machine. I sort the change, coins, and dollars from the vending machine. This is how I make the t-shirts. I am learning life skills like mailing, cooking, gardening life skills. I have to cook meals and make meals for my family. I'm learning how to buy the things I need at the grocery store. I also order what I want at the restaurant, like sweeties. I like to do things out in my community. I like to go to the craft fairs and go shopping. I like to visit my friends out in the community. I like to take walks and exercise to stay healthy. It's important to stay safe. This is how I do it. I also follow the rules when I cross the street in the parade, Lion King parade. I look for cars in all directions. I also wear my seatbelt in the car. Zip, click. I'm learning driver's skills also. I also learn about safety fairs, Safety Week. I also like to teach classes like ASL, sign language, like at kinder college.
What are you doing there?
Practicing I pledge allegiance in sign language to the kindergartners at kinder college. I like Bebo the bear. I also get money checks for all the hard work. I go to the Tri-Counties Bank of America to cash my checks. I also use my money to buy things I need at the store. I also save money so I go on vacations and have fun with my friends. I also get money when I recycle my cans and bottles. I also buy my recycle money to buy puzzles, movies, and nutcrackers. Books, I buy things I want with my recycle money. I am learning new kinds of art like ceramics, like figurines. I like to go to ceramics, it's fun. I like to make presents for people and friends, I give them away. I work softly and do a good job, or slowly. They like my artwork and have made a wall of fame with my artwork. I love my man life. I like to work, I like to make my own money. I like to write mail to my friends from school. I like to learn life skills and help others. It's my life, my way.
So I think that we have enough time to watch that last video clip, which I think is a very important clip to really share with you. There was a reporter that came out to the school, and she started seeing Ethan's artwork that's in the background all over campus, and she started asking, well, what's that? I saw that in another classroom, and they're like, oh, that's Ethan. Oh, that's Ethan. And she's like, who is this Ethan? You know, so she went and met with Ethan and was very impressed and actually did this story about Ethan. And I think it really shows what an inclusive environment using evidence-based practices can look like and pulling it all together.
Hi, I am Ethan Grecian. Welcome, and thank you for coming to my IP meeting. Today we will review my progress and plan for the next year.
From the beginning, I mean, from probably the first week of school, I noticed that when Ethan had spare time or free time when he got his work done, because he's very schedule oriented, and once he finished what's on his schedule, he would always have free time, and he tended to like to doodle or draw, and he's got such a gracious heart. He wanted to take his drawings, and he just started giving me drawings every day, and they started to compile.
This is a picture of the rising rate of autism by Ethan Grecian.
And that was just his gift to me. And so we started to take those pictures and put them up on the wall in my classroom and said, hey, let's see how many drawings we can get up in 4 years. We made a goal, his first month of school, his freshman year. Let's see if we can cover the front of the classroom with your self drawings or portraits. And that kind of gave him a green light, not just to do my classroom wall, but he felt it was a goal of his, or his gift to do as many walls as he can here at Anderson High School.
This is about me. My favorite thing to do is drawing Eliza Doolittle. And I love Disneyland. My favorite thing to do is seeing Dr. Grandoff and Dr. Pepito. At Anderson High School, and then love all my friends.
Okay. I think Ethan kind of feels it's his duty to put a smile on teachers. He's such a schedule-oriented person, and even duty-oriented, that he sees, I'll use the word joy or happiness, he sees the reflection that we give him when we get a picture from him, the gratitude. You saw it with the hugs. It's like that's his way of knowing that he's done something right or done well at school. He's done his duty. So yeah, we never expected it would turn into. It's almost like become a vine. It's everywhere, and it keeps getting watered and nurtured by other teachers, so it keeps growing.
This is me in office tech, my Miss Perez class.
Two they have?
I am 2.5 years old, and I diagnosed with autism.
He treats everybody on this campus the way you're supposed to treat people all the time. He doesn't pick and choose. There's no malice in that child. There's no meanness. There's no hatred. And so everyone Ethan's ever met is his friend. And I think he's a reminder, and that's why I teach special ed. It's that reminder of the way we're supposed to treat people all the time. And I think that's what the student body here they love about him, more so than anybody else, is he treats people the way they're supposed to be treated all the time. Not half the time or part of the time. He's not looking to get anything from you. You know, he's not manipulating you. He's just loving you for who you are, because you're a person like him.
This is me from last year at the Mind Institute, and this is me at the Capitol, at the state Capitol.
You know, and you'll always hear him say, he'll say someone's name and say, oh, he's a good, you know, like he'll say, Mr. Kleiber, he's a good man, you know, or Mrs. Rinker, she's a nice lady. He always follows it with that, you know, Mrs. Ahern's, she's a nice mom, you know, and that's what makes Ethan different than the rest. You know, he's a reminder of how we're all supposed to be, I think.
Kayla Landon. Ethan Grecian.
The UC Davis Mind Institute was created in 1998 with a promise to find cures for neurodevelopmental disorders. Every day, our physicians and researchers come closer to fulfilling that promise. Their groundbreaking research on autism, Fragile X syndrome, chromosome 22q11.2 deletion syndrome, ADHD, and other brain disorders are helping children achieve their fullest potential. Please visit our website to find out more about current studies, upcoming events, and how you can help make a difference.